At local. Here we are. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. And welcome, welcome, welcome to Andrea. So we're going to give just a couple moments for people to hop on. I'm so excited, guys, that we're going to be having this conversation today. I am ready for it. And so much to share between myself and Andrea, who is already on, right? So welcome, welcome, welcome. So while people are still joining, and for those of you that are obviously going to be able to watch this live broadcast later, I'll just share a couple of tidbits about what we're doing for Women's Month. So it's Women's History Month. Women's International Day was literally 2 weeks ago. And we are at Epic Transformation. We're doing a lot of work around women in leadership. And so the whole femme powered movement and all the things that are related to bringing more awareness to women and to women's needs and in the career space, and in particular in the STEM space, because I'm a proud woman in tech. Yay. And a huge advocate for having more women in the tech space. And when I say more, what I mean by that is really just ensuring that we have access available. So it's not just about, wanting to see more people have jobs, right? It's also about making sure that we have access to these areas of experience and expertise. Yeah. So that's what we're looking forward to sharing with you today. And I'm just going to be checking the platforms to make sure that we are live across the different zones. So what I'm seeing right now is that we are happily live on Facebook and happily live on YouTube, but I'm not so sure if we are happy on LinkedIn. So I want to make sure that I'm checking into that. I do see that we had a couple of persons that have sent us little love notes. So, okay, I'm checking just to see, and hopefully we'll be able to make sure that our LinkedIn family gets to tune in. But if not, no worries. We're going to keep the ball rolling. So first and foremost, I want to say welcome to my lady boss.
Hello.
Hey. Excellent. Welcome, welcome, Lady Boss, Andrea P. Miller. I want to, before I get into your epic bio, I want to actually have you, Andrea, I want you to actually share the story of, and the reason I think it would be good for you to share it is because I feel like it sounds better coming from the person that was experiencing it, like on the side of the person that was like observing and watching this thing. Like I would just love for you to kind of let's talk about how we met. I would love for that to happen. Let's talk about how we met.
Yes, it's a funny story. So this was last year, right? So 2022,
Yeah.
and it's late April of 2022. I am down bad with COVID. And I see this video pop up with Stacy. And then let me backtrack. I think the reason why Stacy was popping up in my algorithm on YouTube more and more and more is because I think this is why it is. I watch Meet the Mitchells a lot. And then I think you interviewed Tammy. And
Yes.
you know how the algorithm goes. It's like now
Yes.
they start. So I see Stacy pop up in my feed. And I'm like, well, okay, let me see what she got going on. Watch a couple interviews. I'm like, I like this. So I'm down bad with COVID. I see a video pop up, and the title of it is Homeless in Atlanta. And I'm in Atlanta. So I'm laying with tissues, and I'm like, what is going on, girl? What you doing? Why are you homeless in Atlanta? It seemed like you had a home last week. So I like watched the video, and I come to learn that she has been in Atlanta before, very familiar with Atlanta, but trying to reconnect and kind of reestablish herself there in the tech world. We'll get into this later, but I don't work in the tech world, but I work kind of adjacent to many tech people. So I'm listening to her, and I'm like, I don't know if I can help her, but I'm gonna try and help this out because she is running around trying to find this, trying to find that. So I go on Instagram find her and literally slide in the DMs.
Yeah.
Like, go in
The
the DMs.
total DM slide.
Hey, girl, I don't listen. You don't know me. This is what I do. I'm not really sure what you're trying to do, but I think I might be able to point you in the right direction. Like, if you're interested, let's connect. Just trying to help. Just trying to help. It's a member of the diaspora trying to help. And so she connected back with me, and we connected on YouTube. Not on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Zoom. And it's been great ever since. I listened to what she was trying to do, connected her with some other amazing women here. And when she came up to Atlanta, because I went to Jamaica, we missed each other, we kept missing each other, and we finally connected, and it's been cool ever since.
Yeah, yeah.
Good connections in the DM.
Well, I just really want to say, first and foremost, that when you read these different marketing kind of things, right? It actually helps for you to try to implement some of the stuff. I'm gonna be honest. When we were doing the whole prep for the show, for the YouTube, for the videos to go live, you read all of these pointers that they put out for marketers, and clickbait is a real thing. Like, let me tell you, if you study how to manage the captions and that kind of stuff, it really is a real thing. So what happened is, when I was driving around with because I was trying out, because Tammy told me about buying this dashboard cam thing. So I literally left Best Buy having bought it, hooked it up, and I was literally what was it, the video?
I just saw you with the cam. You was driving around.
Yeah. And so essentially, and this is what's so beautiful about technology, right? You can literally just move from one place of not knowing what you're doing to the next place of just being on with it, right? Yep. So I have my dash cam up, and I'm driving around, and I realized, when I was watching the actual video, that in some of the shots, you could see the back of the car with clothes piled all over the place, boxes. And I was like, if people see this, they're going to think I'm really homeless. And then I was like, homeless in Atlanta. And that's literally where the topic came from. And, can I be quite honest? I mean, my transition back to Atlanta has been quite the tricky one. I will say I invested quite a bit of money last year in navigating the space. And when I say that I'm transitioning from place to place, people immediately are like, oh my God, are you migrating again? Because I've moved so many times just in my life, right? So automatically the thought is, oh, so you're going to be moving from one place to the next. You're not going to be in one place or the other. And the way that the world is structured now, guys, is that literally it doesn't really matter. You can literally be living in 5 places. It just depends on when you want to spend your time there. And that's actually how I desire to live my life. And so that's what I'm creating. So Atlanta was home for me for a long time. The old stomping grounds, went to university, did all the things, had my house, all the stuff, right? And I have a wonderful community there already from my previous life. And now, thanks to Andrea, I have an entirely new community of amazing people. And I'm dying to get back in on the ground. It's been a grind. Can I just tell you? It's been a grind. But thanks to good souls like you, Andrea, that keep it real. So for those of you who are part of my community, you probably know enough about me, right? But maybe not as much about this amazing lady here that is making boss moves. So let me just tell you a little bit about Andrea and about the conversation that we're having today. So Andrea is actually a first-generation Jamaican American. She was born in Atlanta, and but to Jamaican parents, right? And after graduating from Southwest DeKalb High, she pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, Public Policy, and Marketing from Duke University. And then she got her master's degree in Urban Education Leadership from Columbia University and an education specialist in education leadership from the University of West Georgia. So my girl just been doing all the school things, right? So we're doing all the school things. And clearly, just from an educational background, Andrea, I could see that you have a passion for learning and for supporting others in their learning journey. So just definitely an educator's heart, Now,
Yeah.
after working as a corporate account marketer, Andrea began her 18-year education tenure and has since served as a secondary math and social studies teacher and instructional coach for all subject at all grade levels. And the reason we're having this conversation today is because currently she serves as a STEM/STEAM coordinator at South Atlanta High School and has served in this capacity since its inception of the school's STEAM initiative in 2017. And that's actually a really critical aspect of this discussion because guess what happened now? We have this challenge globally of creating STEAM experience in school. And I'm looking forward to dissecting that a bit because one of the things that I feel that you are passionate about, Andrea, is how do you support from a heritage perspective,
Mhm.
right? That Jamaican heritage. I know that this is a part of your heart, and I'm going to actually ask you the question to allow you to tell the story of that. But, Caribbean countries, islands, and a lot of other third world countries need support in really expanding their capacity and capability in bringing STEM and STEAM on stream. No, I mean, not to play on all the words with the STEM and the STEAM and the stream, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, right? Now, while continuing to engage within the secondary public education space, Andrea owns and operates 12 group company consisting of connected brands that include short or midterm rentals and consulting. 12 Consulting specifically helps organizations to provide quality STEM and STEAM programming for historically underrepresented groups with specialized interest in students who identify as Black and or Latinx and those in the Caribbean diaspora. So that's actually where I want to start the conversation.
Yeah.
Why the focus on the Caribbean diaspora? That I think is where I want to start.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that my parents are from Jamaica, and I think many times when you're a child of Jamaican parents, you have one of two experiences. You either have an experience where your parents or most of your family has migrated and you don't really have a connection, to that country, your home country, but that was not me. That just was not me. At 3 months, that was my first trip to Jamaica. And every year, every summer until I started working, I was there. So until I was about maybe 15, 16 years old, my year was split evenly between I'm either here or I'm there for a significant amount of time doing any and everything that children do in Jamaica. So Jamaica wasn't this place, it's another home. And my parents stay connected. Most of my family is still there. I have family members that are teachers and educators. So I always knew and had an ear to the ground of what was happening in the country from all aspects, especially education. So when I got deep into education and when I really got deep into STEM and STEAM, all roads eventually were going to lead back to Jamaica at some point, because when I realized I was in the work that I do, that I'm making connections with and partnerships with different people and different companies, I always would tell everyone the same thing. I said, one day I'm going to call you because I want to do something in Jamaica and you better pick up that phone and act like you know me. Right. And so that's always been the goal, is to see how can I use what I'm learning here with the children I serve every day, and what does this look like there? Because the issues are the same. Honestly, the issues are the same. It's just a difference in, location. There's some nuances for sure. But what the domino that really dropped for me to push forward right before the pandemic, I began thinking about what does this look like. During the pandemic, my father's health declined and he eventually passed. And that was the domino that dropped for me to actually now move, now that we're kind of coming out of this pandemic era, because he and I spoke a lot about what we wanted to do regarding education, what we wanted to do in Jamaica, different possibilities and things of that nature. So I've always had a passion for it.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I actually was definitely resonating with you when we talked about the back and forth, because that's the kind of Jamaican baby I was. My dad, my dad and my dad's family was in the U.S., in New York, and then of course the southern migration. And then my mom's family was here, and so I did quite a bit of that back and forth thing, and sometimes it's very difficult to explain to people, and it's very difficult to create relationships, and it's, there's just a lot of that kind of transient experience. But what it actually did for me was it opened me up culturally so much, and I created, just I guess just different lenses about equity and about what's available to me as a Black woman, because I was experiencing different cultures and how different cultures related to somebody like me. So a lot of the barriers that I think even African Americans may face, I don't have those similar challenges because of my Caribbean heritage, and that connection and that thinking, and similarly, some of the barriers that we face here in the Caribbean, on the American side, I don't have those challenges, So I really do think that we have such an advantage by being able to see through these different lenses and to be able to serve and contribute to both economies, because everybody has different kinds of needs, right? So
Absolutely.
definitely thank you for sharing that. So I want to now actually talk about the way I positioned this conversation in terms of why our children, and I'll even extend that if you have any data or any insight on girls specifically. But let's start off with just why our children are failing at STEM, and why is it that there is this mad rush? And I'm using that term loosely, the failing at STEM. And there is this mad rush from both nonprofit side as well as private sector to try to infuse a shift in the STEM STEAM relationship that our children are being exposed to. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts or your insights there?
Yeah, well, I think that rush that we see happening is because it's kind of like we've gone from, when we were younger, we had that cartoon, the Jetsons. And if somebody goes back and looks at the Jetsons now, there's not one thing that happened during the Jetsons that's not happening now.
That's so
It's
true.
like everything is happening. So as we progress and as technology improves, our world is linked to technology. Our world is linked to STEM and STEAM. And that's so very important for the workforce, because they're thinking years down. They're thinking about, who are we going to have to employ at these jobs? There are jobs that, and problems that we can't even fathom right now that are going to come up. Who is going to solve those problems, and who is going to be able to be employed for those jobs? So every state, every country is trying to think about what their positioning in the market looks like, and their ability to be able to put more of their people in those jobs. So it's very critical, and that's the reason why every for-profit, every nonprofit, every government agency wants to make sure their students are getting a great STEM and STEAM education, because it could be the thing that's a major determinant in how they play in the global marketplace.
No,
And
that's
what's
good.
going to be the deciding factor, for example, here in the United States, of, hey, do we have any talent here in our country? If not, we have to outsource.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not the goal of any country, is to outsource, but that's what happens when you can't find that talent.
yeah.
And so now it goes back to what your initial question is, like, why is there this gap in our education? And I think that's so multi-layered. I
Mhm.
think it's everything from a stigma of science and math, that it's hard and that it's difficult. And the truth of the matter is, yes, some things are hard, and we can do hard things, right? Some things are not as hard as people say they are, right? But some
Yeah.
things are hard. I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like astrophysicists. Not hard. It is hard.
Rocket science. Yeah, we
Right.
can do that in the sleep.
It is hard. But we have to change the narrative that we can't do hard things. But that narrative is out there. And it's everything also from teacher preparation. We have teachers teaching subjects that they were not certified in when they came in. It's not even their fault. Things have changed, things have advanced, things have progressed, but people have not poured money into their development either. The truth is, people see education in school as glorified babysitting. If they saw it as something different, we wouldn't be having some of the shortages and things that we see it as.
Absolutely.
You know, then we have to talk about the issue of equity. Equity, where you grow up, what family you were born to determines the type of education that you get. And typically that education doesn't include strong literacy, strong math, strong science, and strong tech foundation. So if students are growing up in spaces and places and families and neighborhoods where they don't see representation of people having and holding these positions and jobs, that is not something that's in their sphere to aspire to. So it's multi-layered in terms of why the gaps are there, but it's a problem that we have to solve. And we, meaning whatever your we is, right? Whether you're positioned in Jamaica, you're in the United States, you're in the state of New York, everybody's we have to figure this out for our we.
Well, that's really good. And there's a couple of points here that I'll definitely raise. So Raquel joined and she just talked about, that she loves that saying that we can do hard things. And that's part of what I really love about technology and the tech space. And STEM or STEAM as an extension of that, because a lot of it is exploration and openness and curiosity and learning. It's like puzzles that you're figuring out so that you can use the solution to solve a problem, right? And I agree with you that in school, I think when I was in what would be the ninth grade, or what in Jamaica they call it third form, I had a really challenging math teacher, and that created a disconnection from math for me. And up until then, I was literally like an A, like super A student. And part of my challenge was not having access to a teacher that was going to say to me, not just here's your bad grade, but let's sit down, Stacy, and try to figure out where that disconnect happened. And I just never got back into a space where I was back in love with math. It actually scared me. Right. And had it not been for my dad being a techie, then I may not have actually taken on this passion for technology. And interestingly, without having that very sharp math aptitude, I have had a thriving career in tech, right? Absolutely. And that's another misnomer. That's another myth where people believe, or children are made to believe, that if they're not excellent in STEM related subjects, that they can't excel in a career in STEM. It is so far from the truth. Because one of the things that I love about this entire industry, or the combined industries, is that you can pretty much try anything on and find, especially now, like literally, they've moved. The thing that math, when you take away the mathematics engineers, the astrophysicists, and the scientists that need to add up all the algorithms and all those things, coding is now to the point where you can tell Chat GPT, please go code this for me. And it'll right. And it'll continue to evolve exponentially. So I do appreciate that perspective that Raquel was also saying. Yes, I love it too, that we can do hard things, and it is possible for us.
And let me say this.
Go ahead.
Not only can we do hard things, but whether it's been disenfranchised communities or what have you, we've been doing hard things.
Oh, that's good.
So here's the thing, like even when I think about the community, because I work in a low income community, or where I think about many communities in Jamaica or other countries, creativity and ingenuity lives and thrives in places where there's a struggle, and everything doesn't come so easy because you have to survive.
Yeah.
That's
good. Yeah.
When survival pushes out creativity. So there's nobody's going to tell me that the kids that I serve are not creative.
Yeah.
The fact that they're able to make it to school every day lets me know they're creative. They just don't realize their creativity is transferable. Right. And
That's good.
That girl who knows how to do that good sew in, she has great dexterity. She probably would be a great surgeon. Like,
Mm.
it, we have skills that are transferable, but because there are these myths and because people sometimes don't make that connection for us, people may not aspire to things because they just don't think there's a place for them there. And when you were talking about that story about you and math, that's what I find too, is that for, and let's take math, for example, if you don't have a good foundation, something that's not meant to be heavy feels heavy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
because it feels heavy, who's going to sign up to lift
yeah, yeah,
right? It's like trying to lift a weight and you don't have thumbs. If it's a 5-pound weight, 5 pounds is not a lot. But if you don't have a thumb, it is going to
yeah,
be harder than
yeah.
it's supposed to be. So when you don't have that foundation and now you're in the 9th grade or the 10th grade and you're struggling with literacy, or you may be struggling with math, it's not that you don't have the ability to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Spot
just
on.
feels harder.
Yeah, spot on. I really appreciate that. I do want to dial back to what you were talking about as it relates to our teachers.
Mhm.
Because when I think about the STEAM crises that we are rushing to solve, I
Mhm.
actually think that that is the Achilles heel of the crises.
Yep.
I,
I was
I really feel so.
I was on a call yesterday. It was there are a couple of different White House initiative calls, just open conversations, and we
Right.
were talking about different aspects of the STEM and STEAM ecosystem. And I think yesterday or 2 days ago, actually on Monday, we were talking about STEM learners and STEM professionals.
Yeah.
And what my offer to that conversation was, which I'll say here, is STEM teachers have to
Mm-hmm.
be considered STEM learners and STEM
Mm-hmm.
professionals. They
Mm-hmm.
actually are both. Typically, people think STEM learners are the children and STEM professionals is a doctor or a coder or a this. A STEM teacher is both,
Mm.
which means that a STEM teacher should be regarded at on the same playing field as that doctor, as
Mm-hmm.
that software engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
people should work to build their compensation a little bit closer to what that person gets because they're expected to develop the next STEM generation. So
Yeah.
they have to have that knowledge. At the same time, they're also a STEM learner.
Oh, oh, that's good.
Sometimes teachers, their professional development is steeped in how to help Johnny sit down, or all the things going on with Johnny and his friends. And that's fine. But that chemistry teacher very seldom gets professional development in how chemistry is being used today. That
Mm.
that math teacher very seldom gets professional development on how math is being used in these different fields that they don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
What ends up
Mm-hmm.
happening is in school, a lot of older professions are probably introduced to students because they honestly don't know what else is going on out there. So
Mm-hmm.
they need externships, they need
Oh,
internships, they need
that's good.
opportunities to apply the theory that they're teaching to kids and know how that works so they can go back into the classroom and say, hey, I did a summer externship, got paid
Mm-hmm.
for it, and now I'm going to show you how to do it. And that way now they've become that STEM professional to the student. That is so critical.
Oh, wow. It really hit home for me just now when you said that teacher is a STEM learner. So they're a student, possibly not getting this amount of learning they need
Mhm.
to actually take that education and that insight to the actual students.
Mhm.
The amount of mindset adjustment that has to take place for this adult that is going through this shift
Mhm.
is so significant that I think we often, even as parents, possibly, even as maybe the government agencies, we may not recognize how significant that is. So that's a really, really good, that landed for me. that they too are the STEM learner. And then you talked about externships. You're right. They need the externships and they need the internships
Mhm.
in order to actually to do that applied learning of what is currently happening today. I'm doing these school tours.
Mhm.
They've been wonderful, by the way. I've been really
Remember
enjoying.
when you thought it up?
Okay, you remember when I had the idea?
I sure do.
I'm doing these school tours with girls, and I'm asking them what they're learning when they're doing. So they're in high school and they're learning IT.
Mhm.
And in IT class, they are learning Pascal. Yes. You see that eyebrows knitting and doing that.
Right.
Right. They're learning Pascal and they're also learning Microsoft Office products, which really you could literally do that in English class
Yeah.
because or
Yeah.
any other class because you use it to write your papers and make your presentations and do
Right.
your calculations and things. They may throw in the learn how to build a website so it feels a little bit more modern because it's almost as though if we teach them HTML or if we teach them about website building or that kind of easy code, then they're learning development. But my thinking is like Pascal though, you know,
Mm-mm.
and then what to further
Mhm.
the challenge that we have is that the testing structure, the testing infrastructure
Mhm.
is set up to test them on these things that were taught in the 70s or
Exactly.
in the 90s
Exactly.
or however long ago that was. Yeah. So,
Education is always 50, 70, years behind.
mm-hmm,
And it
mm-hmm,
it has not caught up at
mm-hmm,
all. And so now that child takes this class and they're going to do everything that their teacher told them to do and get an A. And then someone looks and says, "Oh, you took IT and get an A. Awesome. You're ready for this."
yeah,
And when they get to this, they aren't ready for this. And
yeah,
that's when the messaging gets setting in like, "Ooh, this is
mm-hmm,
hard.
mm-hmm,
Ooh,
mm-hmm,
I don't belong here because these people know some things that I don't know."
yeah,
But it's not that these people know things that you don't know. You didn't learn what you were supposed to learn there, and it's not even the teacher's fault.
right,
It's a curriculum misalignment,
yeah, yeah,
right?
no,
Someone simply
absolutely,
said, "Hey, we need to do more STEM and STEAM IT class. That requires a computer. Great." So, you know, but everything that requires a computer is not IT.
exactly, absolutely. And I see here where Lennox, thanks for joining, Lennox, has put on that he agrees STEM teachers should be subject matter experts and subject matter students. The
Yes.
continuous learning is so critical. And we actually talk about continuous learning a lot in my leadership programs.
Mhm.
Once you're passing on knowledge, once you're leading others, even if it is students, you need to be continuously learning.
Yeah.
When you're not in that space of continuous learning, then what you are doing is an injustice to those that you are now teaching. And it creates a sense of imposter syndrome. It must. And you're bringing that energy into the classroom. So you're correct. It's not necessarily the teacher's fault. And I also believe that even as teachers, there are so many other things pulling at you. So
Yeah.
when Johnny shows up, Johnny's not interested in learning whatever it is that you're teaching at that moment. Johnny's interested in talking to his friend about what happened at the game last night. So you have so many distractions there. And then
Yeah.
you also
Johnny
have
ain't changed in 50 years. That's the same
Johnny.
Johnny what he was doing 50 years ago. Johnny's still doing the same. And so sorry to
Exactly.
anybody named Johnny. God bless you. I hope it worked out.
Exactly. It's the same exact thing. But part of it too is that I think that there should be more of these conversations. I actually did see your invite to the White House conversations. And I just have been having so many of these
Yeah.
nighttime conversations I haven't been able to join for myself. But I do think creating those town hall kind of conversations for something that is so critical and affects on a community level,
Mhm.
it's a really great path to take, and it's a great way to also create an open forum and say, hey, we're looking for solutions. We're not out here trying to just solve it all on our own.
Right.
So
Right.
thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I wanted you to talk to us a little bit about 12 group. Like,
Yeah.
where did talk to me about, see how your face lights up. Talk to me about that passion and how that is now shaping the work that you're going to be doing in this space.
So it's actually 12-12 group.
12-12. Okay,
12-12
12-12
is
group.
my birthday.
Ah,
Um, yeah, 12-12 is my birthday. So that is the name of it. And what I wanted was a name where different things that I was interested in or passionate about could fit underneath that. So my 12-12 consulting is all of my STEM and STEAM consulting that I do. 12-12 rentals, I told you earlier that my father passed a year and some change ago. And so starting with his home and now, looking to acquire other properties, I have a short-term rental, business. Um, and then we're going to open up like 12-12 giving, which is going to be more of the philanthropic arm. So I am working right now to create a nonprofit in my father's name that will function both here in Atlanta and also in Jamaica, starting with the parish of Portland and his childhood school of Manganiel All Age School. And so
okay.
again, tying it back to STEM and STEAM, the
Mhm.
times that I've gone there to visit, that those are the projects we're looking at first, is how do we build out their tech infrastructure? How do we help to infuse STEM, STEAM education there? So there's definitely an interconnectedness with all of the different interests that I have. But it's also an umbrella company for me to have those different brands.
Okay. No, I love that. I love that approach. So let's talk about this passion project and how it is actually looking to start blossoming, because I think one of the things that we wanted to also address is, while we identify the gaps
Mm-hmm.
in the space and why the gaps exist, right? So we identify the gaps and why they may exist. What are some of the things that a parish
Yeah.
or any other underserved, underrepresented area can do? Because one of the things that's going to happen with this particular conversation is it'll be on my podcast. And right now, like, I have listeners in Lebanon and in Iraq and Iran, and I have women everywhere. Thankfully, thank you, my listeners. I love you so much. Listening to this show, and I know that many of them are facing similar challenges with even more regulatory issues or social
Mm-hmm.
issues that they aren't able to break through. So
Right.
I think it's really inspiring for us to actually be able to share, these are some of the things that you can look forward to being able to do to make a shift, no matter where you are, no matter how low on the totem pole you feel your country is, and the resources that you have are. So just, if you could share with us maybe some of the things that we can do to start, that would be very helpful.
So I'll talk about it, yeah, in the context of this particular passion project in Portland. Um, Couple of things. Again, I stay really connected to what's happening, in Jamaica, and I've heard there are a number of different conversations that have been swimming.
Mhm.
STEM and STEAM,
Mhm.
um, teacher shortage, and just different challenges in the school system. Um, Outsourcing
Mm.
of
Mhm.
products,
Yeah.
people from overseas coming to Jamaica, making a profit. How come people in Jamaica are not being afforded certain things?
Mhm.
Um, why are we importing more than we're exporting?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
as I'm thinking and hearing about all of these things, coupled with speaking to the principal at Manganiel All Age and just thinking in general, how will this go? And thinking about STEM and STEAM. The interesting thing about STEM and STEAM is a bedrock of STEM and STEAM instruction is using problems that you see in your community
Mm.
as the basis for what you teach through. So
Mm.
you don't just go into a classroom and start teaching Pascal's triangle and start teaching about ozone layers or whatever. No, you walk outside and you find problems that are impacting you, and you use that problem to teach those things through so that students can see how what they're learning is connected to solving problems in their community. So, in my mind, if we can use what problems we see, whether it's in a parish or a country or a community, and we're using it to teach students to solve problems creatively, you use what are resources and assets of that community, and that may be able to turn into an industry of sorts, or it may allow for you to become the authority on that thing. So if we talk about Manchineel is on the coast. There's a lot of
Right.
farming, there's a lot of fishing. It's in Portland, which is my favorite parish because to me, it's like Jamaica's rainforest. So you have a lot of conservation, you have a lot of flora, fauna. So why can't STEM education in that parish become a pipeline for aqua business or
Good.
ag business or improving technology with fishing? And if you can create a pipeline where you create specialization, then Portland or that part of Jamaica can become the authority on that, perhaps for the world.
Oh, that's
Because Jamaica isn't the only place that has a lush area. There are other places that do, but if you can begin becoming a problem solver in that space, then you can probably solve a similar problem for another country. And that's how you begin to outsource talent. So in my mind, that's how this all works synergistically. So for any of your listeners that's in Lebanon or wherever you are, the first thing I would say is look in your community and try to ask yourself, what is an asset? Are we near an ocean? Are we near the mountains? Is it very cold here? So we have to know how to stay warm. Is it very hot here? So we have to know how to stay cool. What are the different things that are assets and what are the unique problems that you have? If you can figure out how to solve the unique problem where you are, you can then become the authority on solving the unique problem for somebody else.
That's good. That's good. I got that. And I actually see the way that you would create an ecosystem around one particular core area. So it's almost like you start off with that singular intention.
Mhm.
And then from there, you take that and you expand it and you become that expert, right? And then that expertise can be leveraged not only locally, but globally.
Right.
You know, that's really a great idea. And the truth is that because you and I have been talking about, how do we plug into the education system here? And I actually have some additional contacts around, we have the Ministry of Education and they need so much help, right? They need as much help as they can get. And the truth is that it really makes sense to focus on this initial project. It's almost like the pilot to say, okay, let's create the infrastructure here. Let's create a system, a framework here, create some success, deliver some results, and then see how this can be utilized to support other initiatives that happening across the island.
There you go.
Yeah,
Because
no, that
if you can do that successfully, then people don't always have to feel like they have to leave home to be financially successful. So going back to what you said before, in this day and age, as long as you got some Wi-Fi, you can work wherever you want to work. But
yeah,
we have to change that narrative of if I want to be successful or financially successful, I have to leave. Some people don't want to leave, and that's fine, but if you can create it to where now you're the expert and people come to you to learn and you export your expertise, then it's not something that's tied to where you have to live and where you have to work.
yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. I can totally appreciate that. Totally appreciate that. All right, so we've actually been going for about 45 minutes now, and I usually
It
like
didn't feel like it.
I
Yeah.
know. Is there any particular thing now that you are either seeking partnership or support around that we would want to use this platform as a way to get the word out?
Yeah. So I'm actually working aggressively to build that consulting arm.
Mm.
I've already done some consulting, but I'm taking on new clients as we speak. So if you work for a nonprofit, a for-profit, if you're connected to a government agency and you really need to reverse engineer
Mhm.
how you do things, because that's my process, is to reverse engineer, look at what we're already doing and see if we can figure out what's been holding us back and restructure it, redesign it, rebuild it so we can get the outcomes that we really want. And so that is where I'm taking on more clients now. So I'm growing from just having one or two to
Right.
more. So if you want to work with me, definitely reach out to me. Creativity and seeing connections between things is
Mhm.
that's what I do well. I'm real clear on what I do well, very clear on what I don't. So that is my sweet spot. So definitely reach out to me if you're looking to build a program or an infrastructure or a system or a school.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have a couple more comments here. Raquel did add, always learning is an excellent orientation, just sharing around that. So thank you
Mhm.
very much for that, Raquel. And then we had one more comment. Excellent teaching from problems. Example in Jamaica, water shortage, lots of STEM there to find
Yes.
solutions. So the teaching from problems in the same way when we talk about leading or problem solving, looking for those problems that people are struggling to find it, to rectify. How can you be the person that can bring that into focus for them and provide that support? Okay, so thanks so much, Andrea, for joining us for what
This is
it felt short, really felt short, but we've been on for a little bit. I'll have to bring you back. Maybe next time, what we can do is we can connect us with somebody that is in the public space, maybe an educator, that we can expand this conversation, because I think this is one that we're going to keep having. And I think
Mhm.
it's one that we actually need to keep having, just based on how important STEM and STEAM is right now, not just for education in Jamaica, but everywhere. Because
Absolutely.
you're in the US and you guys are assiduously working on it, right? So
Right.
we're
And it's
all
still
on the
broken.
same journey.
So
Say
we
again?
still, I said it's still broken. So we
It's
still trying
still bold. Yeah, absolutely. Any closing words before I end the broadcast?
I just want to thank you, thank your listeners, thank your community. You've been such a light, Stacey. I'm so glad that the clickbait worked and that it's worked and that we have this connection now. But to anyone that's listening, please reach out, even if it's just to strike up a conversation, because I grow from those conversations as well. But thank you all to everyone that listened.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much, community, for joining and for participating, engaging with us here. We're literally live across three platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and not Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're live across all platforms, and we just welcome your comments and feedback. We know that there's going to be a lot of traction on this following this broadcast. So we welcome your comments and look forward to connecting with you. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, please feel free to reach out as well. So thanks again, Andrea, and thanks everybody for joining. Take care.
Bye.